Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Neighboring landowner Will does not respect property lines. I live in a quiet wooded neighborhood. Behind my house and several others was a wide wooded area. Last year that changed when a local guy bought up the land with plans to clear it for lumber. At first it seemed like no big deal. I figured he'd respect the property lines and we'd still have enough trees to maintain our privacy. But he didn't. Soon I started noticing spray paint and tape on trees that were clearly within my property. He was marking my trees as if they were his. At first I thought it might be an honest mistake, so I took down the markings and put up some signs to make it clear where my property line was. But that didn't stop him. He kept coming back, removing my signs, my markers, and even the metal property pins I'd placed there. It was as if he thought if he took down enough evidence, he could claim the land as his. Things got worse when I realized he'd already cut down some of the trees on my property. When I confronted him, he had the nerve to say the land was his and accused me of moving the property pins to make my yard bigger. I couldn't believe it. I had the neighborhood diagram from county records, and even without the pins, I knew how to measure my land. He just didn't want to accept it. My neighbors were dealing with the same issues. Many of them owned similar-sized plots of land, about 2 acres each. We all had trees marked on our properties, and some had even been cut down. It wasn't just frustrating, it was infuriating, so we decided to take action. Several of us hired a professional surveyor to mark the boundaries again. Everything was properly surveyed and marked. The day after the survey, I walked out to check on things, and guess what? The ribbons, stakes, and pins were all gone. Same thing had happened to my neighbors. We couldn't believe it. The guy was trying to erase any proof that the land was ours. At this point, some neighbors installed security cameras, hoping to catch him in the act. One of the neighbors happened to know his son and confirmed that it was, in fact, the man himself marking our trees and pulling down the stakes. The land technically belongs to the man's adult children, but he's the one overseeing the tree-cutting operation. We hoped the son would talk some sense into him, but the family wasn't getting involved. It seemed like they just wanted the money from selling the lumber and didn't care how it was being done. Update. Finally, we decided enough was enough and took the guy to court. With the official surveys, photos of our damaged property, and witness statements, we had a solid case. The judge sided with us, ruling that the man had indeed encroached on our property and destroyed our trees illegally. He was ordered to pay restitution for the trees he'd cut down, and he's now legally barred from stepping foot on our land. Afterward, I received a letter of apology from his son, who claimed they hadn't realized how serious the situation was, but at this point the damage was done. At least now our property lines are secure and the lumber thief won't be back anytime soon. A few of my neighbors and I are even planning to plant new trees where the old ones were cut down. And our second story. Wrong depart, ma'am, wrong. So this happens all the time to me, but one call stood out in particular. I work phone support for a fairly large tech company that has customers that run the gamut from Fortune 500 to mom-and-pop coffee shops. I work support for a fairly advanced product, as I'm a network engineer, but occasionally someone finds their way through our phone system from the folks that handle the paperwork support, we'll say. I have no access to any of those systems, nor should I, as it's a separate branch of the company and firewalled between us in terms of access for reasons. Anywho, I'll be me and customer will be bad day, BD. Me. Thanks for calling generic tech company. Name, this is me. How can I help you? BD. OMG. Thank you, Jeebus. I've been waiting for 3 hours. Phone queue states 5 minutes, but okay, lady. Me. I'm sorry about the wait. What product are you calling in about? I don't recognize generic store number as a customer of one of my products, so I assume she's lost. BD. I can't run any cards. Fix it now. Me. So it sounds like you're in the wrong part of the company. Let me transfer you over to them and they'll get you sorted. BD. No, I will complain all the way up to the owner and get your butt fired if you transfer me. You help me right now, you dumb F. Me. Ma'am, I will only say this once. Do not swear at or insult me. You have reached blah product support and not bletch product support. You're in the wrong BD, I want your manager now. Me, ma'am, you're in the wrong. BD, guttural scream, silence. So at this point, I don't even want to get her to the right department, as she'll tear a new one into one of our less experienced support personnel who already have to deal with jerks and butts all day. I put her on hold and talked to my supervisor. Then the supervisor of the other department that the call should have gone to. She's still on hold. I transfer to the other supervisor. Now, I was not privy to the conversation, but she indicated she was lit into by this woman for a good 20 minutes about how rude I was and how I was swearing at her and calling her basically every mean thing on the hidden pages of the dictionary. Then gold struck. The manager told her that the calls would be reviewed if she had a formal complaint, and the employee, me, would be fired if that were found to be true. She was silenced. Part of what that department does for support is very discretionary on whether the business is graded a pass or fail, and we can make or break a company's adherence to the rules that govern a ton of their operations. BD knows this. BD knows she was being harassing and rude to me, and I was nothing but polite. Super knows this too. BD did not, until that time, know that the calls were recorded. Her attitude adjusted properly after that tantrum, and we found out she was having the day from hell and was just pissed at the world. The support person who ended up helping her with her review paperwork said that her car had gotten towed because her ex-husband basically stole the car the night before and went on a bender. The customer had damaged her only glass display case, and it would be days before she could get a replacement, and her furnace had gone out sometime in the middle of the night, leaving the house freezing. She was having a really bad day. In the end, she got helped. She apologized for being pissy, though to support rep and not to me personally, and life goes on. One thing I've learned working in customer service is that you have no idea why a person who's angry is actually angry. I'll hang up on your butt if you berate me or swear at me, but being angry, that I get and will let slide. I'm just glad she realized we could have shut her out of a major part of her business functions if she kept it up. Bad Day Lady's day could have ended much worse. Edit. I'm not justifying her behavior towards me. I tend to take people at their worst and give them the benefit of the doubt, and I never harbor ill will. I never will. Call it a character flaw. Fun fact. Good people having bad days don't lie, threaten, and abuse others. That's what makes them good people. Anybody can be decent when they're having a good day. Based on this story, that lady was a bad person. You were a good person to have patience with her at all. And our last story. You want to park your Mustang here? Watch it burn. A bit of backstory. I used to live at the local county fair for the week it ran, from Monday to Sunday in the last week of July. I started volunteering young, helping my mom sell race programs for the site and colt stakes out of a stroller. Nothing incites a $1 sale like a 3-year-old offering a brochure for horse races while sitting in a stroller. My sister and I helped out with little things, and in return we usually got free stuff like wristbands for rides, admission to tractor pulls, or the beloved demolition derby on Sunday. My dad, one of the directors, displayed old farm equipment in a corner of the grounds and on the other side of the fence from the beer tent. Bonus, free musical entertainment until 11 p.m. or 1 a.m., depending on whether it was a weekend or weekday. The grounds also hosted the State Woodsman's Field Days every third weekend in August, a big logging exhibition and competition. Dad's the tech support, so again, free admission whenever I want to go. The parking lot is a bit complicated. It isn't owned by the Fair Association, part of it's owned by the nearby school, and the rest belongs to a farmer who lives half a mile away from the grounds. Years ago, it used to be a dirt road that ran from the school bus garage along a creek and then turned a corner to the back by the rear gate near the beer tent, which also served as access to the fair office. 2 more small dirt roads converged from the bridge across the creek that served as the gate onto the grounds. There was a small triangle area reserved for handicap parking. The road has since been paved, but the lot is still grass. I can probably tell you the number of entitled Kens and Karens that tried to park there, but that isn't what this story's about. Fast forward to 2006. I was 16, just got my working papers so I could legally work as a minor, and decided to be a parking attendant during both the fair and Woodsman's. The boss, whom I'll call Hank, not his real name, was in charge of the parking attendants and was both a fair director and a woodsman's volunteer. Each year we'd go over the rules, and I did this for 7 straight years before I started working at Walmart, so to this day I still have many rules in my head. Don't stand between cars when parking them, no slacking, don't drive other people's cars, use sunscreen and hydrate often, etc. However, one rule was that at the end of the triangle area reserved for handicap parking, along the brush line that marked the edge of the creek, we reserved that space for trucks and SUVs due to the longer grass. This detail is important. Here's where the story begins about the entitled person I'll call Ken, as told to us by Hank. Ken rolled in on one of the fair days with his beautiful cherry red Ford Mustang, a classic model. At the time, the lot attendants were trying to fill the upper lot, pushing carts towards the farmhouse half a mile away, but being responsible since it was late in the day. Now, during the fair, we barely have enough cars to fill halfway to the house in each row, so it was a good 5-minute walk max to the gate. One of the attendants had started directing Ken up the hill, but Ken had other ideas. Our lovely Ken found a good spot for his beloved Mustang, and he'd be damned if he'd dirtier by going to the lot up the small hill. Instead, he opted to try for the first open space in the truck and SUV area. I don't know what the conversation was like, but I assume it was a back and forth between the attendant at the bottom of the hill who had the stressful job of directing traffic, trying to get Ken to the upper lot, and explaining why it wasn't a good idea to park where he wanted, while Ken tried to make his case about parking in the truck and SUV zone. Eventually, the attendant had to return to his duties, and Ken swung into the spot along the creek and disappeared onto the grounds. Now, the reason I mentioned the long grass is important. This particular transition from July to August was particularly hot and dry. Car enthusiasts might be thinking right now, yeah, it was only a matter of time. The hot exhaust system of a low-clearance vehicle was in contact with the long, dry grass, and before long, there was smoke under that nice cherry red Mustang, and then there was a fire. The fire department was called, but by the time they arrived, the car was fully engulfed in flames. When all was said and done, that beautiful car was reduced to a burnt-out husk, all because Ken decided to park where he wanted. For all 7 years I worked with Hank, we were always told this story as a warning, but leave it to an idiot in a Mustang to make a stupid decision and win a stupid prize. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.